All right, so welcome back to the Vermont Food Bank. And yeah, good. All right, so why don't we go ahead?
Let's start at the beginning here. It really likes to start in the middle. I guess we can introduce ourselves.
Good afternoon, committee. I'm John Sales. I'm CEO of the Vermont Food Bank and live in Montpelier.
And I'm Carrie Staylor, and I do government and public affairs work at Vermont Food Bank, and I live in Linden.
I'm going to let Carrie kick us off.
Yeah. And so while this is about our budget request, whoops, hang on, having like some major technical challenges. There we go. One of the things that we like to do as part of the Food Security Coalition here in Vermont is remind legislators why you asked us to draft that document and why we continue to use that document as a guiding light in the work that we do. And it's because we know the state of Vermont can make policy choices to ensure food security for everyone who lives here. And this relates to the asks that'll be in front of you from Vermont Food Bank, because we know that the government needs to support the charitable food system now to improve food security for everyone, while together we all work toward a more permanent, dignified, and sustainable set of food security solutions for the whole state. And that impacts on food security are some of the longest lasting impacts after disasters and disruptions, which I know this committee talks about and thinks about a lot, as those relate directly to farmers. This is our total budget request for the state. $5 million in fiscal year 27. $2 million of that directly relates to this committee for Vermonters, Feeding Vermonters. The other $3 million are $2 million to support our network partner organizations with purchase and distribution of food, and $1 million in base funding for Ready Response, which directly relates to disasters and emergencies. This $2 million is what we'll be focusing on today, the Vermonters Feeding Vermonters grant portion. And then I guess maybe I'll hand it over to you to do a little background on the food bank and just kind of level set and remind everyone who we are and what we do.
Sure. And most of you have heard this before, so stop me with any questions, but I'll probably go quickly through this. So the Vermont's Food Bank's mission is to gather and share quality food and nurture partnerships so that no one in Vermont will go hungry. We are in the midst of strategic planning. We're keeping our mission because it works and it says what we do. And we think it says it distinctly. Last year, we distributed 14.5 million pounds of food throughout the state of Vermont. And we expect to distribute about that same amount of food this year. We're the only statewide food bank in Vermont serving about 300 plus partners. We'll talk about that a little bit more in all 14 counties of the state. We have 3 distribution centers in Barre, Rutland, and Brattleboro. Barre serves like Orange County and the whole northern part of the state. Rutland serves Rutland County, Addison County, and Brattleboro serves the rest. And there are some differences there, but we find that's a good spread for us to be able to make sure we're balancing being present on the ground. We can often deliver more food in that area right around our distribution center. So it's important to us to be distributed throughout the state. So the impact, as I said, more than 14 million pounds of food distributed, more than over 200 farms that we work with over any given year in a number of different ways. And then 217 network partners. So those are the food shelves and meal sites in your communities that serve people directly. We also partner with schools and hospitals, with SASH sites, and some other organizations. So the total number of partners is over 300 across the state. And each month we serve around 70,000 people in Vermont. And that's through direct distribution the food bank does, and through all of our partner organizations throughout the state. We're everywhere. So you can see the blue dots are our partners, network partners, food shelves, meal sites, hospitals, schools. The yellow dots are, the urban areas where there's There's multiple partners underneath of those.
There were just too many and they had to turn into one dot.
That's right. But we are, through partnership, distributed very pretty evenly throughout the state, even, places like Essex County where there aren't a lot of people, we still have partners.
That's a good question. So there's a place in Bellows Falls called Our Place.
Yes.
And they have a food pantry and they distribute food. And I guess I always assumed that they were part of the food bank, but it looks like they're not.
I don't know. I believe
We would
Our
have to look at
Place,
a different place for that.
right.
Okay.
Our Place, if it's not now, it certainly used to be a network partner of the
Yeah.
food bank, and why there wouldn't be a dot there, I don't know.
Okay, so maybe it's just the dot is missing.
It could be
And
the
it
dot
would-
is missing, or
I
it's
just thought maybe there was a different food system and I wanted to understand that.
So there are partners
Lucky
who,
has a food shelf.
yeah, there are partners who are not part of our network. There are food access points who are not part of our network.
Okay,
And there are often food access points that are engaged with one of our network partners as a satellite site.
Okay.
And so we may not directly list those.
Yep.
There's a lot of that.
I've visited Our Place and I know that they've
yeah.
been a network partner, so.
Right.
Nelson?
Yeah, so is the food shelf back open up in Holland?
Yes, it
It
is.
is, yeah. It's way at the top. So this,
Again,
before we get too into the map,
And is it associated with Newport or?
no, it's independent.
It's independent, okay.
it's a little old. The map is a little old.
Okay.
No,
Not directly from our
Well,
website.
Holland almost-
All right, it's representation. It shows that there's
Yes.
live service all over.
I love that you all want to know though. That's the best.
Yeah.
All right, let's move to the next slide.
It's not perfect. The map's not perfect.
Noted that the map should be extremely accurate. I will correct that for my next presentation.
Give a go.
Yeah, just the previous slide, estimated 70,000 per month.
Per month.
It's like more than 10% of the population.
Yeah, and that's a duplicated number. So there could be the same people going a couple of times a month.
I see, okay.
Or
Isn't it over 10% of Vermonters?
Yes, but we do serve over 10% of Vermonters in aggregate over the year, individuals. Yeah,
it could also, this also doesn't differentiate, like if someone goes to a Veggie Van Go, but also uses a food shelf, they may be considered. It's a little hard to get into the super details.
that's one of the challenges we have is because of the way we serve people, getting very accurate data on who gets served where and when is really challenging because we like to be low barrier. So yeah, the different kinds of food we have available. So we run 2 federal food programs, the Commodity Supplemental Food Program, CSFP, which is a box of staples that go to people over 60 who are income eligible. We do about 1,500 of those boxes a month, and those get distributed throughout the state. And then donated foods, which you'll see is about 60% of the food we distribute. And then the balance, about a quarter, is purchased foods. And that's really the number, as you'll see, that's been going up over the last several years. Here, yeah, donated food, about 60% of what we distribute. And it comes from all kinds of places, local, regional grocers and retailers. We pick up, they take stuff off the shelves at grocery stores. We are our partners and the local food shelves will go there and pick it up, including produce and meat. The meat gets frozen before it gets donated. And then some of this comes to our distribution centers and gets sorted and then redistributed. And then wholesale donations, any manufacturer, distributor of any size in Vermont is a donor to the Vermont Food Bank, pretty much. Community food drives, we don't engage with those too much. We usually, it's a small amount. It just adds cost for the food bank to roll a truck for, 100 or 200 or 500 pounds of food. We direct those to the local partner. So if a community is doing a food drive and call us, we say, hey, you should talk to this local partner and they'll help coordinate and all the food can stay right in the community. And then there's also donated food through national channels. We're part of a national network called Feeding America, which is about 200 food banks across the country. And there are relationships with all of the big national food manufacturers and distributors. And so we can actually get food donated from, Tyson or the big vegetable growers or Cargill, And that they have a system for us to be able to bid on and get loads coming in. We share a lot of that with other food banks in New England because we're so small, compared to a Los Angeles food bank or Dallas or Chicago. So if we can get a truckload of something and we don't need the whole truckload of that product, we'll share it with, Rhode Island or Western Mass or New Hampshire Food Bank. USDA, it's about right now about 20% of the foods we distribute. I didn't talk about the second USDA program, which is TFAP. It's the
Emergency
Food Assistance Program, TFAP. Started out many, many decades ago as government cheese. Now it's a USDA program where Congress appropriates money. USDA actually goes out and purchases food like a grocery store, has food processed into shelf-stable canned dry foods, grocery products. We also get frozen food through TFAP. Great quality food and very stable source. Generally, the appropriation goes up and down over the years.
You should be getting cheese right now by the semi-load because of the price bill.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. Sometimes if that's what happened, years ago. So
It would it'd help empty the cheese caves.
Yeah.
And then get the market stable. After production side stabilized, then it would stabilize and
Yeah.
it needs to happen.
I think what you're naming is an important piece of that, which is that all of these decisions are made by the USDA. And it is often meant for market stability, and food banks are simply a way to move that food into communities.
Well,
And it is often unpredictable.
get me that job down there and I'll feed you all better and I'll take care of the farmers at the same time.
I would like to have you in that job down there.
Yeah, same.
So I talked about purchased food, and this is our slide. This is food banks across the country. And if you go back even before 2018, you'd probably see, if you go back to about 2008, I started at the food bank in 2009. You would see a steady progression increase in purchased food as the need continues to rise, and it's more difficult to find new sources of donated food. Food banks have more and more been purchasing food.
And when he said this is national, he meant this is a national trend.
Trend.
This is our data.
This is our
on this
data.
slide.
This is not national.
You'd see that if you had national data. Representative Boston?
So when you say purchase food, does that just mean like you literally like go to a grocery store and purchase it? Are you able to do like large number, reduced cost?
We are purchasing by the truckload
Okay,
from
all right,
wholesalers.
okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. And we have a team whose only job, they're the food resource team. They just purchase food both from our local farmers and all over the country.
Representative O'Brien?
Yeah, I remember in a past presentation, you said you bought a lot of food from Quebec and Ontario. There's sort of
Our produce, yeah, there's a distributor up or a grower up there called Western Harvest.
Your Granby.
Yeah, and we buy, well, most of our produce that we purchase comes from Western Harvest.
has that changed with tariffs at all, or is
No, because fortunately, so far, the tariffs haven't applied to products that are part of the free trade agreement, and that includes produce. So we have seen tariff impacts for some other things that we buy, like racking and forklifts that often comes from Canada.
Or the cans that the
The
food
cans.
comes in, the aluminum tariff has increased can costs, which
Maybe.
increases food costs.
That Western Harvest Gardens, I've never been to it, but I need to go. It's from what I hear, the people have been there, it's absolutely phenomenal. And, and you talk about local food. It's 50 miles from my house. It's closer to that, from Swanton. It's just.
Yeah.
It's just the other side of Maydog.
They're a great partner. In fact, when you go on a tour, a number of years ago, some of our team went on a tour and they came and flew them around in the helicopter to show them all their growing. Yeah, they're big organization.
Their fields are as flat as this floor.
And then there's Vermont grown food, which is what we talk about a lot in here. We're very proud to be able to bring Vermont grown food to the people that we serve all over the state. And you can see here, there's been a very large increase, part of that during COVID, when there was a lot of funding available. And our growers here in Vermont were very stressed because, of course, the food supply chains were all interrupted. We really ramped up purchases of local foods and have been able to stay there. You can see the decrease in 25 is when we had, I think in fiscal year 24 for the state, I think we had $3 million
Yep. There was
appropriations from the
that year.
state. And then the fiscal year 25 was 1.5 million. So it was that kind of the funding from the state fell off, and that's what was supporting a lot of those local purchases. So
Drop 6%.
and this year we do have the legislature appropriated $500,000 in FY26 for Vermonters Feeding Vermonters, and there's around $400,000 still in the budget adjustment to add to that. So we're very grateful for
You say
that.
still, it's moving its way through.
Moving its way through. It's in the Senate now. Yes.
Well, yeah, it sounds like conference committee is coming up soon.
All right.
We're getting close.
We're
I
getting
know.
close.
So close. So I guess I'll take over here, and this is the specifics of the request for the $2 million for Vermonters Feeding Vermonters. So I'm sure this committee remembers, but I will remind you. Last year, you passed the Vermonters Feeding Vermonters Act, which became Act 34 of 2025. And so that program is now a real partnership with the Vermont Agency of Ag, Food and Markets, which has been a really positive improvement and has really helped both the food bank and the agency meet very similar goals around supporting farms. What we were able to do this year with the funding was buy directly from farms. So we do larger scale purchasing from some of our larger farms in Vermont where they can deliver by the pallet load, or, scales that require a warehouse dock to deliver. And then there's a separate portion of the program that provides grants to our local partners so they can work with their own local farms to purchase smaller quantities, right? That fits in the back of your pickup truck or your Subaru and can go to a food shelf and be handled maybe more frequently, right? It may be CSAs, or it may be a few times a summer or fall during the harvest season when that food is getting picked up from the farm or delivered to our partners with those grant dollars. That's really what helps us meet that number that John shared earlier, those 220 farms. The food bank can work with only so many large farms because, as you all know, that's not the scale of farming in Vermont. Those grant dollars really help move dollars out into those small farms. Sometimes they're new farms, sometimes they're well-established operations, but that's where the variety really happens. And then there is a separate part of the program that is culturally relevant food that we work with a few growers and match them with some of our partners who work with specific populations. I remember having Hillary Martin in here to speak with you, and she was talking about specific kinds of melons that they grow for populations in the Burlington area, and that they have staff who really know what those folks want and how to grow that food. And it is a specialty that they've developed over the years. And we really try and match that with our partners.
I seem to recall that the governor didn't put any money in his budget.
There is no money in the governor's budget. We have had a great working relationship with Ag, Food and Markets, but money did not wind up in the governor's budget when that budget was released. So our hope is that the support of this committee and the support of the legislature will help us get this money back into the budget.
We
and
did have that
sustain it.
conversation met with Sarah Clark, and we talked to the folks at Ag with Abby and others there to make sure while they were building their budget that they knew about this opportunity.
Yeah.
And then once that food is all purchased, we'll just go quickly through where the food goes. So John talked a little bit about the alphabet soup of some of the names of our programs, but you can see all of these intersecting arrows, right? There's all sorts of food going out in all sorts of ways. And that is really what happens with Vermonters Feeding Vermonters food too, right? Much of it goes to our network partners. Some of it goes to our Veggie Van Go. Some of it goes to those SASH produce drops. Some of it is going out through school pantries, which This is still called Backpack Program. We have recently updated that name to just call it school, local school programs. And really that produce is working its way into lots and lots of communities around the state through a whole variety of our distribution channels. And that's really the magic of how Vermonters Feeding Vermonters works, is because it utilizes existing channels that we operate through all the time. And we know who has capacity for refrigeration and who is just going to need us to drop it off and have a pickup right at the same time, right? So there's a lot of existing efficiencies in that process.
Representative Boston.
Sorry, I'm just reading the caption on the bottom of your screen.
Mhm.
And one of the requests that we've had is for pretty darn close to $5 million for navigators to help fill out applications for Three Squares assistance. So I'm wondering if you can tell me, what do you guys do and what is your capacity to help with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for that. That benefit assister request, the food bank is included within that request. Our program at the food bank for Three Squares Vermont is a team of 3 full-time staff and part of one person's management position. To literally, we operate a phone line, we operate a text line, and we operate an email channel for people to get in touch with our team. That team does SNAP assistance, and they also help do customer service for our CSFP program. The part we would ask for support, as part of that benefit assister piece, is that SNAP and Medicaid combo. Our team primarily does SNAP. They are the only team that operates statewide. So a lot of benefit assisters are located within CAP agencies or local organizations who are seeing people face to face or meeting people.
The agencies on aging.
Yes, the agencies on aging. There's a whole bunch of those more localized organizations. Our team can be reached statewide through the channels that I mentioned and have really become highly skilled in very difficult situations. So people who have worked through the SNAP process and continue to hit barriers that are complicated, can't get their login to work, they can't get someone to sign this one form, what do we do, right? Or is there a form that I can use? Here's my specific situation. And really often end up working in depth with people for a lot of time to work through those pieces.
We're also not intending to become educated and become experts in Medicaid also. I know this is both, we want to focus on SNAP assistance, which we're expert in, and we will refer people to others who do Medicaid.
Yeah, and so the piece of that benefit assisters is really because there was a change in federal statute. So the federal change in HR 1, it used to be that you were required to have a 25% match. Now you need a 50% match. And without that kind of match money, Vermont Food Bank and all of these other organizations who do this work will have to reduce capacity instead of increase it, which is what we all actually need in order to help keep people on these programs and keep the federal dollars that come into Vermont flowing into our state. And so it's a little bit like it's a little chicken or the egg, right? But at the same time, I think to speak for our colleagues at Vermont Food Bank, the critical role that they're filling is this highly specialized, deep knowledge in the SNAP application process and all of the variety of ways that people can run into challenges through that, which is unfortunately kind of vast. I'm just going to breeze through these other 2 sections of our request because I want you to understand them, but you don't need to deeply understand them. The $2 million to support our network is really one-time funding that we're looking for and will help purchase shelf-stable food and other food, some of that produce that we're talking about from Canada that goes into those, food shelves and meal sites at no cost to them. One of the things that we are consistently asked for by our partners is more free food. And there is not a way to, as John said, get more donated food into the system. And so we are having to find ways to purchase food to keep those shelves stocked. Many of our partners work on very limited budgets, as many of you already know. And so this is one way that we can take state dollars and help wrap around that whole network and fill those shelves. And then $1 million for Ready Response. This is something we've been working with government operations on. This is really related to the multiple flood disasters Vermont has had and a recognition that we do not have a good system in our state to respond to food needs after a disaster. And our hope is that With some funding, we will be able to work together with Vermont Emergency Management and create some better systems and plans. And practice those like they do with a lot of other disaster response, and to become part of that system.
And we are in some ways already part of that system, and we do coordinate. When there is a disaster, VEM calls us, we're written into the state emergency operations plan. But we don't have the resources to be able to have, for instance, food staged, because we know that disasters are coming. But we can't have food and water staged in our distribution centers, just waiting for that, because that needs to turn over periodically. And it's something that needs consistent funding to really have a plan that we can implement over and over again.
I believe that a year ago for the FY 26 budget, the House included some funding for this program. Did that not make it through?
Not make it through.
Yeah.
So this is not a continuation of existing.
This is not. No, and it really is the same hope to formalize that process.
Representative Burke.
I'm just curious if, I'm assuming if there was catastrophe at some point, some sort of needed a lot of food quickly to be distributed. You can only have so much food ahead of time, right, without it spoiling and the cost and whatnot. Is there do you have a plan in place for how you would acquire that food? And
We do. We have disaster plans. So what happens is a good example is the last flood when Barry flooded. They turned the Barry Auditorium into a emergency center and a shelter. And within that first day, we had because we're right up on the hill, we had a call from them saying, "We've got 300 people here. We don't have any water and we don't have any food. Do you have anything you can bring down?" And we often don't have the quantities of water and the kinds of food you need. You need things that doesn't need to be cooked, right? Ready to eat foods. And so first of all, having those staged would allow us to meet that kind of immediate need. And it takes us, it's going to be at a minimum 3 or 4 days to order something and get it in. There is a national disaster system in the Feeding America network. And so we can get disaster boxes very quickly, usually within 3 or 4 days from Feeding America. But
that's
again,
just to our warehouse,
that's
right?
just
And
to our
then to get
warehouse.
those out to communities.
And it's limited in the quantities we can get. We can get maybe 2 truckloads of that. So without getting into the details, we've had lots of conversations with VEM, and there's a certain window where we think the food bank can really play a strong role. But having the warehouse space and the products sourced and the capacity, to make sure we have that, kind of that 10% extra in trucks and drivers, so that when that hits, we can respond and not be completely overwhelmed.
And not disrupt the already urgent need that we're filling, because what we're doing is everyday emergencies all the time. Then when you add on a natural disaster or, other types of emergencies, we still have to keep rolling in the same way in order to not make everything worse, right? So it really is this additive capacity that is key.
what came to mind was, someone like Champlain Orchards or other farms who have a lot of storage capacity. If that's somebody you would contact in an emergency situation, like, can we get 2,000 bushels of apples to distribute?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we do that also. We're definitely, looking in the local area to find what resources are available.
Yeah, just to clarify, so you don't really stockpile any food for a disaster?
We have maybe a couple of pallets, which, is enough for, one little town. If something happened, the water was out or they lost electricity.
It's the ice storm scale.
Yeah.
So, when we went to your warehouse, if that food we saw completely gone in a month and it's been replenished from dog food to alligator, it's all gone.
Yeah, the alligators.
I had alligator,
No, we
That's
didn't.
USDA.
We did get some USDA
Okay.
alligator.
Yeah.
Yeah, our warehouse in Barry turns over between, I think it's about 9 times a year.
Yeah.
So it's a little more than a month. But that food really does all move.
So I always call it a distribution center and not a warehouse, because nothing really stays shelf.
Well, it's hard to stockpile food for a disaster. Because unless it's all in aluminum, it has a shelf life. I mean,
Well, and part of the plan is we'd have to recognize the shelf life, and we can just take whatever's getting close to code and distribute it through the network, through the food shelves and meal sites, and then we'll replenish that. So it'd always be.
yeah.
This is a slide that I actually pulled for House Human Services, but I thought this committee may want to also see this. This is from Public Assets Institute's State of Working Vermont, which is a report that was just released. And I thought it was interesting in light of the 70,000 number that we shared with you earlier about how many people we serve sort of on as average per month. These are numbers from 2024 about Vermonters living below the poverty level, not above. And these poverty numbers are slightly outdated. The numbers are a little bit higher now, but I was actually, having done this work for years and come into the State House for years, really shocked to see 56,000 Vermonters are living below the poverty level. So that 70,000 number doesn't sound too surprising when you see a number like this. And then the other piece of that report that I found interesting that I think is really telling for our state at large, and I know this committee has heard that a lot of farmers fit into these categories too, are people who are not able to meet their basic needs on the income that they have. And this is a little confusing to look at. The X's are actually the part of the scale where people are unable to meet their basic needs. So, just below 50% of single households, almost 70% of single adults with 2 children, not able to meet their basic needs. And a few weeks ago when we were here for Three Squares Day, I know we had a few farmers here. And all the farmers who came with us that day, save maybe one, all also used Three Squares and fit into these categories of not being able to meet their basic needs.
Karen, on those basic needs chart, is that just food or is that housing as well?
It's all the basic needs, and I think it's the same basic needs calculation that the Joint Fiscal Office uses to do their basic needs budget every few years.
It's everything. It's
Everything.
food, housing, healthcare, childcare, transportation.
Fortunately, there are a lot of basic needs. So again, the total budget that we're hoping this committee will be able to draft into your budget letter is $2 million of our total $5 million request. And that is specifically to support Vermonters feeding Vermonters. But, as you know, supporting farmers by purchasing food at market cost is also supporting farmers in meeting their basic needs. And I think that's really one of the win-wins of this program. And I think that is it. And, me and John and Sarah, we're around and we are happy to answer questions if you have any more. And then if there are any additional questions, I think John and I are happy to stay and answer those.
Representative Boston.
So I guess we're going to be putting together a budget letter that says, this is our wish list of what we hope the appropriations will fund. So are you saying we should only put Vermonters feeding Vermonters on there because somebody else is going to take care of asking for those other things?
I think that's a great question. And I would return that question to your committee chair, because I think each year committees have dealt with that a little bit differently. I will say that if you're looking specifically at the budget areas that are related to agriculture, the portion that we are asking for that fits into the ag agency budget is the $2 million. I would like your support for everything we walk in here with, of course. And I think it's up to you and the other committee chairs, Chair Durfee, how you all decide to do those budget letters, and whether you want to.
Have you, just as a follow-up, have you been able to testify in, I think I heard you mention Human Services a moment ago. Have you been able to testify in other policy committees?
Yes, we were in Human Services this morning and Government Operations last week, the week before.
And my understanding is government operations has made a commitment to put the ask in their budget memo. So
For the emergency
Right, and I think they may have done it for
They may have
everything.
done it for everything. I'm not, I haven't seen that.
You know, the more the merrier when it comes to appropriations.
And if you, have you, I don't know whether the appropriations committee has also made time for budget requests.
They are doing their budget public hearings. They did one last week and there's another one this week. And we have had, John was in last week, but there are several of our partners and our, you know, community members who have, who plan to come and give testimony during that. Hopefully they will feel well educated.
Do they ask questions we asked earlier in the year, like your efficiency rating, or do you give it to them so they realize?
No, they ask and we share. Yes.
That's really important, I think, that they understand how efficient some of our NGOs operate in the state. You know, we heard from the conservation districts and how efficient they are, and how efficient you folks are.
It's the Vermont way.
Well, and it just shows prudent use of our dollars.
Thank you.
Okay, good, well, we can wrap it up, I think, then. Thank you very much for.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time and all the good questions.
We just, while we've got a couple of minutes here for the committee, I think that we sent around, either Patricia or I, sent just a reference, copy of the letter that we wrote a year ago to the Appropriations Committee. And my expectation is that we can follow the same format. So if you want to just take another look at that so that you can.
Can I have that right now?
Well, not, doesn't need to be right now. We have to be downstairs in a couple of minutes, but take a glance at that. And then I think the language in there was somewhat my language, and there'll be different, won't be the same, necessarily the same letter, but the same request, but some of them are similar. So if there's something that you particularly feel strongly about and would like to elaborate on why you think this funding should go here. We've heard new testimony this year, obviously. I welcome anyone's participation in putting that letter together. So if there's focus that you see isn't there, let me know.
Is that in our tablet?
It's in your email. Yeah,
In our.
it should have been sent to everyone's email either yesterday or this morning. Yeah.
Is it annotated with what actually ended up in the final budget?
No, this is just the letter that.
Okay.
There is also separately, and this is only related to food. So pursuant to the conversation we had yesterday about a list, there was already a list Jake Claro had sent to the committee a week or so ago. And so I recirculated that to everybody. Not all the budget requests we received, it was just food security related. But it's a starting point anyway. And we're, in the meantime, as she's able to find time, Tricia's gonna sort of try and build out the list to include all the requests that we've received.
Okay.
And I just to publicly thank Jake because it's very thorough and covers what we have been struggling to put together on our own past few years. So there's some time still left tomorrow that is TBD, and barring anything with a higher priority, we will use that time to talk about what we want to have in the letter. If you have an opportunity between now and then to look at it, to look at last year's again and want to think about, you might want to help contribute to it, please feel free to do that. And again, it's last year's letter. It's not this year's letter, but format wise, I think it's helpful to think about how we're structuring it. Other questions? All right,
What's the deadline?
Friday nominally. Yep. We'll try to do that.
Going right up.
After today, my mind's burnt.
I know we covered a lot today, just sort of thinking.
It's good. No, it's good.
Yeah, where we are going in the next few days, the there hasn't any other scheduled testimony on, Paraquat.
Maybe he's in lumber. Like, Sasasno lumber or something.
Okay, yes, yeah, so I'm sorry, we don't have anything scheduled, but we have reached out to, we've heard anyway from Farm Bureau. That they may have some people who'd like to testify, so we want to trying to schedule that.
Chair, if you're interested on Paraquat, I could get the Syngenta government liaison officer would come in. If you're
If they
interested.
would like to, yeah, that would be, we'd be happy to. We're, just to remind everybody that we've got rest of this week, next week, and then the week after.
Yeah,
So we're trying to move ahead with each of the bills. And that's also a short form bill, so we don't have language in front of us yet.
One thing and when the miscellaneous ag bill needs to be wrapped up.
So everything has to be in by that, like the Friday after crossover, that's the deadline for all
Did you
bills.
say miscellaneous ag had to be done tomorrow to go to the Senate?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, so in order to meet crossover date. No, the miscellaneous, so the municipal regulation of ag, in order to stay on schedule, we should probably move something out. We should probably agree to something by the end of the week. And we might have a little flexibility there, yeah.
So I go to another
Because we
committee.
want other committees to have a drive-by opportunity for it.
yeah, I would, yeah.
So, yeah. We have a visitor? Yes, you.
Just visiting.
Just visiting, okay. Well,
Yes.
Down there,
Done.
side is good.
Ghost.